Good evening, I'm Matt Woodman. This is CTV News at 5. Tonight, paying for protection, why the province is refusing to give COVID shots to anyone who wants one for free. Property packed, neighbors using a legal tool to fight back against new multiplexes. And a budding business, one of Alberta's only you-cut Christmas tree farms, is on the market.
CTV Edmonton, local breaking news with Matt Woodman.
Premier Danielle Smith is doubling down, saying that non-healthcare workers in Alberta will have to register and pay to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. CTV's Brendan Purdy is following this story and joins us now in studio. So, Brendan, what's the latest on the vaccine rollout plan in Alberta?
Well, Matt, 2 days removed from announcing free vaccines for healthcare workers, the Premier is standing firm, saying that most Albertans will have to pay for COVID vaccinations. The Premier citing cost-saving measures and declining vaccination numbers in the province, adding that over 100,000 Albertans have already registered for paid vaccines. Smith is standing by her government's rollout choice this year, but says they could look at pre-registry for free vaccines in the future.
Try it this way. This year we are trying to mitigate costs because it is an expensive intervention. We don't pay for every vaccine. The shingles vaccine, for instance, we don't pay for. The RSV shot, we only just started paying for it for those over age 75. That's a $300 shot. When people go traveling and need a yellow fever shot, they pay for that themselves. So we don't pay 100% of the cost of every vaccine. So we're just trying to align our approach on COVID with the same approach that we're taking on RSV.
At a cost of roughly $110 a dose. Now, Smith was asked why she extended coverage of the vaccine to healthcare workers. She says the unions requested it, and those workers are at a higher risk during respiratory virus season. Smith also mentioned that her government will be releasing the cost of the free vaccinations for healthcare workers later this week. Matt?
All right, Brendan Purdy live in studio tonight. Thank you. A woman in the Edmonton area says new and proposed changes to assured income for the severely handicapped have detrimental consequences. Brianne Kuffner has several disabilities, including needing an IV every few days. She was thrilled when earlier this year, the federal government introduced the Canada Disability Benefit, providing $200 a month for low-income Canadians with disabilities. However, the Alberta government announced it will treat the benefit as non-exempt income for AISH recipients, which means their overall monthly support will not increase. Kuffner says losing out on that $200 could mean having to choose between rent or groceries.
For inflation last year, AISH went up by 2%. It worked out to, I think, $30 or $40, depending on how much AISH you were already getting. My rent alone went up by $100 last year. If my rent goes up again by another $100, I don't think we can re-sign our lease.
The province has also announced plans to create a new program for people with disabilities who are eligible to work. They've launched a survey to gather feedback on the issue. We'll have more on this story on CTV News at 6. A man from Calgary charged with kidnapping a 12-year-old boy during a catch-a-predator scheme was previously convicted of child porn offenses. 37-year-old Zane Merchant faces 9 new charges. RCMP say the boy escaped an abduction when a group of teens arranged to meet the man in Airdrie on Monday. They wanted to record the encounter. Court documents obtained by CTV News show Merchant was convicted of possession of child pornography in 2022 and 2023. He was prohibited from communicating with kids under 16 without parental supervision. Today, duty counsel appeared briefly in an Airdrie courtroom on Merchant's behalf, and the case was adjourned until next week. Merchant remains in custody. A family-owned and run business in the Kingsway area has been destroyed by fire. Architectural Clearinghouse, a business that salvages, reclaims, and recycles building materials, went up in flames last night. That fire started around 9:30. It was declared under control around 6 o'clock this morning. Edmonton Fire Rescue Services says 10 crews worked to extinguish the flames. Business owner Brenda Midlack says she's devastated.
There's no words. It's your whole livelihood is just going up in flames in front of you, and there's nothing you can do but watch it burn. We hope it was accidental. We hope it wasn't on purpose.
Midlac says the building was filled with doors, windows, sinks, and toilets. The cause of the fire is still unknown, although Midlac believes it began at the back of the building. With residential infill shaping up to be a major municipal election issue, some Edmontonians aren't waiting to see what our next city council has in store. They're using a legal mechanism to prevent multi-unit developments in their neighborhoods. CTV's Jeremy Thompson has the details.
Lawn signs warning about change are all over Lansdowne, a neighborhood response to signs like this and the infill development they foreshadowed.
Oh my gosh, there's going to be an 8-plex and then another 8-plex. And before you know it, how many 8-plexes are we going to have?
Multiplexes up to 8 units are allowed on most residential lots in Edmonton since new zoning rules kicked in last year.
This is not right, and people feel terrorized in all these communities.
Now, Shelley Schwartz is rallying her neighbors to fight back.
The one legal thing that we can do is put in a restrictive covenant.
As long as you have 2 or more property owners, you can enter into essentially an agreement.
This real estate lawyer says restrictive covenants are an inexpensive legal tool. Everyone who signs on agrees to certain redevelopment restrictions, from how a new building looks to how big it can be.
And it runs with the land, so each subsequent owner is bound by them.
Darren Richards says covenants haven't been common in mature neighborhoods because until recently, city policies and bylaws were less permissive. He's not surprised to hear multiple neighborhoods are now drafting them.
You kind of have to have a quarterback, you know, someone who's active in their community to kind of, you know, knock on doors and get people involved. So it's not easy, but it's doable.
In Lansdowne, Schwartz is that QB. So far, she says about a quarter of the neighborhood has signed up for her restrictive covenant that allows a maximum of 2 units per lot.
These things have been coming so fast in so many places, you know, which was not an anticipated outcome, that it's understandable that people want to put a full stop to this right now, forever.
Councillor and mayoral candidate Tim Cardmell has been pushing for a pause on mid-block multiplexes, while he sympathizes with Edmontonians that are signing on to restrictive covenants.
It's not a great outcome. Cities do have to evolve and grow and develop.
Councillor Ashley Salvador agrees. She's not sure how a patchwork of restrictive covenants will impact Edmonton as the city works to absorb a rapidly rising population by growing up rather than out.
And that would almost lock those areas into a certain regulatory framework and not allow for adaptation as our city evolves and grows.
While Schwartz is confident in the covenant, she wasn't taking any chances with this property across the street from the house she's building. After catching wind it was in line to become an 8-plex, she and 2 neighbors bought it with plans to redevelop it themselves.
At a premium, which is fine. Again, we said, well, I guess if we have to overpay on the lot, at least we are not losing as much value there.
Once the Lansdowne covenant is in place, Schwartz plans to share her work with other communities looking to defend themselves from infill. Jeremy Thompson, CTV News, Edmonton.
The Canadian BMX Championships are being held in St. Albert this weekend on an improved track. 2 years ago, the St. Albert BMX Centre received a provincial grant of more than $500,000. Today, they received $55,000 from the province as part of a support package for sporting events being hosted in Alberta. The money will be spent maintaining the track.
That 8-meter hill is a world-class hill, and that's what we race on at the Olympics, the World Champs, and World Cups. So, yeah, having it here is amazing, and I really like the track. I enjoy it.
The championship event is expected to bring 2,000 spectators to the track over the weekend. According to Wild North, bat sightings are on the rise in Edmonton. The wildlife organization says this is the time of year young bats called pups are leaving the nests. It's also a time when bats are moving around a lot more, either to migrate or hibernate. Wild North says if you see a bat hanging on the side of a building or in a doorway, leave it alone.
As the sun starts to go down, it's likely going to leave that area and you might not see them again, although sometimes they'll return to that same spot for 2 or 3 days, so don't be surprised. Also in the fall, they'll lower their body temperature. They can go into kind of what's called a torpor. It's sort of like a semi-hibernation, and sometimes they will appear like they're deceased. They're not moving very much. They're stuck to the wall. Sometimes people think they've passed away when really they've just lowered their body temperature and they will eventually fly off.
If you spot a bat on the ground, he says it's a good idea to call an organization like Wild North for advice. He says some bats aren't able to take off from the ground. It could also be injured. Well, Josh, no problem there. Don't think I'll be touching any bats around the city. I'll just leave it to the professionals. I'll leave the forecast to the weather professionals as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It looks sunny and hot for the next couple of days. You'll be happy about that, Woodman, and you'll be happy to see the weekend forecast as well. 17 degrees in downtown Edmonton right now. It was a cool and windy day today. Right now, wind out of the northwest. 30 gusting to about 45 kilometers per hour. That's been the case for most of the day. Gusts outside the city have been a little stronger, closer to 60 kilometers per hour. I think it'll stay gusty here for the remainder of this evening, and then overnight tonight, the wind should die down. We started the day at 10 degrees, pretty close to average. Cooler than average by 3 degrees today, 19 for a daytime high, and I think this will be the coolest day we see for a while now. In fact, temperatures early next week should be about 10 degrees hotter as we get close to 30 almost every day next week. There's your big upper level low off to the northeast. That's been producing some steady rain in northeastern Alberta. The southern edge of this, you've had some thunderstorms here. Looks like a lot of the lightning in east central Alberta has started to break down. You're still dealing with some rain, though, rolling through the Vermilion, Lloydminster areas. We've had a couple scattered showers. Yeah, it's sort of dancing around most of the city. Much of Edmonton has stayed dry, and this is still a long ways off to the north. I think it probably falls apart or pushes just east of the city through this evening. So there's a slight chance, sort of mid-evening, for a brief spotty shower, but the bulk of this rain should only affect east central Alberta. Skies will be clearing once you get through the overnight period, and the wind will be dying down after about 9, 10 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow, 23 degrees, and I forgot to take the windy graphic off of there. Hang on a second. That won't be there. Ignore that part. Focus on that part. 23 degrees for a high tomorrow. Sunny and even hotter for the weekend. In fact, it'll be the first time we have a dry weekend in... Now we'll answer that in a couple minutes.
I was going to say, you're not expecting me to have the answers. I just said I'm leaving it to the professionals. Coming up next, drying up, why shipments of orange juice to Canada are the lowest in more than 20 years.
Programming brought to you by James H. Brown Injury Lawyers, the heavy hitters of injury law.
You're watching CTV News at 5.
The independent candidate who came second to Pierre Poilievre in Monday's federal by-election says she's going to see what actions can be taken against the longest ballot committee. The group flooded the Battle River Crowfoot by-election ballot with more than 200 independent candidates. The move is supposed to bring attention to election reform. Independent candidate Bonnie Critchley came second to Poilievre on Monday, getting 10% of the vote. She says some voters thought she was part of the longest ballot committee. In an interview with Alberta Primetime, she says she'd like to see changes.
I really do think that it is legal election interference. And if nothing else, I want the regulations changed so that you have one official agent for one candidate, not one official agent for 204 candidates.
The longest ballot committee wants similar reforms. Critchley also says she will be holding Pierre Poilievre accountable for fully representing the riding and showing up for its communities. One of the only you-cut Christmas tree farms in Alberta is up for sale. CTV's Miriam Valdez-Carletti has more.
After years of growing and pruning Christmas trees, Peter and Judy Kepler are ready to put down their machetes.
I think my body worn out a little bit over the last 50 years working with trees, and I think I did it long enough.
The couple own Forever Green Tree Farm, about an hour and a half southwest of Edmonton. 40% of the conifers grown here are for the holidays. The rest are for landscaping.
It's harder to grow a Christmas tree, so the Christmas tree is probably the biggest feature.
It takes 10 to 15 years to raise a tree. Fortunately for prospective buyers, the Keplers are selling their business turnkey ready, with thousands of trees already growing on the property.
It's everything ready to go. You don't have to wait, and the equipment is here. Everything is a bit here.
While most people don't think about real Christmas trees until December, the work getting those trees ready starts as soon as the snow melts. Daily work goes into taking care of all these trees, all done by hand. Do your arms hurt after a while?
when we start early in the season, it does. But after a while, no, we just do it.
The Edmonton Chamber of Commerce says part of the appeal of buying a real Christmas tree is the experience of being on the farm and cutting it yourself.
There's probably a very large market for that because people do want to spend money on those experiences, especially during the holidays.
The couple say they've already had some interested buyers.
Ideally, it would be a family and they can carry on with the Christmas trees and the landscaping.
It's a lifestyle to live on a tree farm like this.
Forever Green Tree Farm will continue operating until they find the perfect buyer, so you still have a chance to get your own tree this Christmas. Miriam Valdez-Carletti, CTV News, Edmonton.
The appetite for orange juice appears to be drying up in Canada. Shipments to Canada plummeted in June to their lowest levels in more than 2 decades. There are supply issues in states like Florida because of disease and extreme weather. One food economist says retaliatory tariffs on U.S. citrus and orange juices are also at play.
We're clearly feeling the impact of the steel and aluminum tariffs. These retaliatory tariffs were intended to do the same thing to the U.S.
Alberta's Sunterra Market says some shoppers are branching out, trying lower-priced mango and pineapple juice instead. A new exhibit in Jasper showcases Canada's glacial landscapes. Photographers Jim Elzinga and Roger Vernon captured a collection of landscapes at the Columbia Ice Field. The exhibit highlights the ice field and the effects of climate change on the glacier. This exhibit is timed to mark the United Nations International Year of Glaciers Preservation. You can see the exhibit at the Columbia Ice Field Discovery Center until October 15th. Still to come tonight on CTV News, recruitment camp, how you can learn what it's like to be a firefighter for free this weekend. Residents in southeastern Alberta are cleaning up after a supercell storm battered the region yesterday. Powerful winds and some golf ball-sized hail knocked out power to thousands and left a trail of destruction.
To the north of me, where the more severe winds and hail hit, it's just swept right clean from the ground there. So significant crop damage in parts of the county of Newell, and then also just to the north of me as well, we had power lines get knocked down from the damaging winds, and a roof from a barn got torn off as well.
Trees were snapped in half, and some people in the area say farmers' fields have been decimated. Summer storm never ceases to amaze me, Josh. It's incredibly powerful weather out there.
Thankfully, we haven't seen too many of those kind of storms roll through the Edmonton area. We have seen a decent amount of rain. Okay, so we said earlier, how long has it been since we had a weekend where both days were dry? And you guessed?
I said it sometime in June. It's been wet out there on the weekend.
Early June. Woo. We've had 10 consecutive weekends where it has rained on at least one of the 2 days. The last weekend without rain, June 7th and 8th. We'll get a weekend with no rain this coming weekend, as mainly sunny skies will take over through the weekend and through all of next week. There's the cloudy skies you can see right now on the Action Furnace River Valley Skycam. Action Furnace fixed right here, it's free. We're at 17 after hitting a high of 19 earlier this afternoon. 14s and 15s here across the northeast. A little milder off to the south in Red Deer at 20. Look at Lloydminster, 11 degrees with some showers and thunderstorms pushing through that area. You've also got some steadier rain that's been falling around Fort McMurray. Most of that now getting set to push south of Fort McMurray and into the Lac La Biche, Cold Lake, Bonnyville regions through the early evening hours, and then off into east central Alberta later on tonight. Here in Edmonton, you might get grazed in parts of the city with a brief little shower, but I think for the most part, should be just cloudy skies here through the early to mid-evening hours, and then some clearing overnight tonight, and the wind will start to die down overnight tonight as well. Mainly sunny skies, light wind on the way for tomorrow. The exception is going to be up in the northwest. You get a chance of some showers and thunderstorms up around high level, and then that'll drift southeast towards Fort McMurray overnight Friday night into early Saturday morning. But here in Edmonton, sunny with a few clouds for the next, starting tomorrow right through to the end of next week. So a good solid week of sunshine and some heat. 9s and 10s off to the northeast and east of the Edmonton area. We'll be around 9 or 10 degrees as well here in the city. Look at Jasper and Banff, 2 degrees tomorrow morning. Cool start as well in Grand Prairie, 4 degrees in the morning. You get back to the mid-20s tomorrow afternoon. Some late-day clearing across the northeast, low 20s there. Low 20s as well for Lloydminster, Coronation, and Red Deer. Jasper heats up nicely, 2 degrees in the morning, but up to about 26 tomorrow afternoon. So still breezy, mostly cloudy skies through the early to mid-evening hours, and then overnight, after midnight, the wind starts to die down. Sunshine, 10 degrees tomorrow morning, light wind right through the day, and we'll get to about 23, maybe 24 for a daytime high, then into the mid to upper 20s for Saturday, Sunday with more sunshine. There's a big upper ridge that's going to come through, and so you're going to see the heat and the sunshine and no late day showers or thunderstorms because of how stable and settled the atmosphere is. So you get to Monday, we're up around 28 or 29 degrees. Take a look at the average. Average is 22, so we're just barely above average tomorrow and then way above average through the weekend and all of next week. Could see 2 or 3 30-degree days before the end of next week. Looks like that heat will stick around right through to the end of the month.
All right, Josh, thank you. A weekend camp in central Alberta is hoping to inspire more people to become firefighters. Ignite the Fire takes place this weekend in Red Deer. The goal is to encourage people who otherwise might not consider firefighting as a possible career to give it a shot. This includes women and people who are gender diverse. Throughout the weekend, participants will have an opportunity to run drills, use real equipment, and deal with a real fire safely. Organizers say the program could help nearby communities.
It does open up a lot of doors to the smaller towns because there's some services that they don't have this opportunity to hold such a function as this.
Applications are open until Friday. The program is free to try. When we return, burger benefits, how you can support MS Canada by stopping by A&W.
CTV News at 5 continues.
Programming brought to you by James H. Brown Injury Lawyers, the heavy hitters of injury law.
People in Edmonton are buying up burgers while supporting a great cause.
Can I get 2 teen burgers?
MS Canada is partnering with A&W locations across the country. $2 from every teen burger sold is donated to MS Canada. It supports people with multiple sclerosis through research and programs. MS is an autoimmune disease that affects your central nervous system, especially your brain and spine.
So if you're newly diagnosed and you're looking for someone to connect with, we have programs in all of our communities across the country that helps to make sure that people don't feel like they're alone on their journey.
This partnership started in Saskatchewan in 2008. Since then, the now national program has raised $22 million for MS Canada. And that's our show. Thanks for watching. I'm Matt Woodman. CTV News continues right now.